One Focus Radio.
Welcome to the show, it's Dyer's Daily. Keeping in the know, it's Dyer's Daily. We've got chat, we've got discussion, nice and slow, ain't no rushing, reading emails and events. Sometimes he makes no sense. It's time to start the show, it's Dyer's Daily. He'll be there in a mo, it's Dyer's Daily. We've got plays, we've got interviews, even stuff that's in the news. Local and otherwise, come and try it on for size, it's Dyer's Daily.
Hello and welcome to the Dyer's Daily podcast for Wednesday the 21st of November 2018. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about popularity, mainstream stuff, and why you like what you like, all that sort of thing to come in just a moment. But first, let's get some promo from other podcasts that are out there. Take it away right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, hit it.
When it comes to women's healthcare, too often we face limited options and doctors who just don't get it.
I feel at times that I know more than some of the providers I see.
Lady Parts is a new podcast that takes a wide view on women's health. We'll talk about the latest drugs on the market.
Something that is very low risk, but which isn't treating the disease, is just trying to reduce symptoms.
And alternative ways of understanding our bodies.
Women have more yin energy and men have more yang energy. And so that's why it's more common, like for men, to have strokes, have heart attacks. Women are more prone to stuff like fibromyalgia and autoimmune and stuff that's more deficiency related.
We'll also talk policy, where the healthcare system supports us and where it lets us down hard. Nothing is too gross.
I don't want to describe this because some people who like to eat liver might not eat liver after, but I can recall like clumps of blood clots just coming out of me.
And we'll have some fun, too. So that means women can have more sex.
You're not going to deplete your essence.
Listen to Lady Parts with me, Andrea Maraskin, coming October 21st, wherever you get your podcasts.
Dyer's Daily.
Now, before we get on with Wednesday's Dyer's Daily, or into the main crux of it anyway, I want to ask you a simple question, but there's a little bit of, you know me, there's a bit of a runaround first. So, have you ever been in a situation where you like something, like, I don't know, maybe a film or a piece of music or something like that, and people are quite dismissive of it? You know, they go, oh, I don't like that, it's rubbish because it's not the in thing. But then, through some freak of nature somewhere, it suddenly becomes the in thing, and you're sat there like, well, I liked it before it was cool. Have you ever been in that situation? I have a few times, and sometimes it's retrospectively, like you sort of think to yourself, well, I was already liking that sort of thing, even if I didn't know that existed. So if I had brought that to them even a week or two before it became big, would people have gone, wow, or would they have just gone, Probably the latter, which I think is it's just part and parcel of the way everything works, because we've got this huge media machine now where everybody kind of gets a little handle on what is huge in the world, certainly in entertainment, you know, so it can become cool to do certain things, sometimes ironically, and you usually find when something old comes back, it is usually in that ironic way. Sometimes irony, sometimes nostalgia. But what you have to remember is, if something is from years ago, from another generation, and it wasn't big, and it's been brought back and it's big now, what you have to remember is back in the day it wasn't popular. So is that nostalgia? Maybe there's something in it perhaps people didn't see the first time round, or maybe like everything, it's kind of the time for it to flourish. I'm reminded of a quote from The Simpsons from one of their flashback episodes, one of the early ones actually, where young Homer, or teenage Homer, is telling his father Abe to be cool and he's not it. And Abe says something like, well, I used to be it, but then they changed what it was. And I think that's a really interesting kind of philosophy on it, isn't it? Because everybody kind of has there is that phrase, isn't there? Their 15 minutes of fame. And in the same way that people have their 15 minutes of fame in media in some way, people also have their 15 minutes in terms of what's cool. Some people kind of transcend that and go beyond and last for decades and decades, but there is always kind of a change. Some people kind of maintain the status quo, as it were. That's kind of the same thing. So they're kind of associated with a certain era. And I certainly find, actually, as I'm reaching 30, I'm finding that a lot of the new music, for example, is starting to alienate me a little bit. And I'm starting to go back to, when I was younger sort of thing, within that time frame and a lot before it, because a lot of the new stuff seems quite scary. I hope this is coming through. I mean, there is a Jerry Seinfeld bit where he's saying that in terms of clothes, he said there is a moment in everybody's life, something like this, there's a moment in everybody's life when suddenly they're in like a time freeze where their clothes are kind of a certain era and they stick with it. So he's like, it was 1965 and it's the guy's wearing clothes from that era and is kind of stuck with that certain style. And I think that kind of happens, doesn't it? Because when things go in and out of fashion, some people will just abandon it for the new thing, and others will kind of stick with it. I mean, one thing that's kind of I'm going all around the media chasm today. One thing that kind of sticks out to me is that Boyzone, the boy band from the 90s, from Ireland, have decided to release a last album, so they've done so, and then the fan group said, don't worry, we're going to keep it open. And you think, yeah, but if you think about it, Boyzone was split up for 8 years before they got back together in 07, 08? So the fandom still carried on. People didn't move on. They kind of kept it going. I've spoken to fans actually of many different things where their band went out of fashion, some of which have not come back in again. They kind of stick by it. And it's not just with music either, is it? It's also sport. Can you think of a time where you supported a team that maybe once were great, and for whatever reason they're just not getting the success anymore, but you stick by them, kind of that brand loyalty? I kind of find it a bit annoying when people kind of just jump on the next thing, because sometimes it feels like blind. It's like there's a blind thing going on, like not to be offensive to anybody, but it's like they'll just follow like sheep. It's a sheep mentality, which I find quite thing, because it's like, are you appreciating it on the on what it is, or just because it's popular? There were some people, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, about 10 years ago there was this huge thing for wearing like Ramones and Sex Pistol t-shirts in different places, usually in colleges. Actually, I remember seeing many people wearing those things, and you think, do they know who those guys are, or is it literally just a symbol of cool? And like I said, some people will wear that stuff ironically, like they'll wear something that's really geeky and say it's some kind of ironic statement, but really it's all down to personal interpretation. But I think my point in this rather rambly podcast is that sometimes people don't personally interpretate something, they just kind of go with it, and I find that quite is my favourite word, quite problematic, which is I don't know really. I've reached the brick wall, but I do find that things go in and out all the time, but there's always somebody there to keep it going. I'm a member of many old-time radio groups, and there are shows from the 30s and 40s that people are keeping alive all the time. And they've been doing so for years, even, decades before I started. And you're talking about 70, 80-year-old shows. Without that devoted few there, the memory of it would be completely lost. Certainly since, with recordable media, stuff that could easily be lost or wiped, it's kind of amazing that there's a group there. But there's so many different things out there. And I just find that I spoke to somebody the other day who said I never seem to realise how much there really is out there. There's so much to listen to and to consume, and a lot of it is because people keep things alive because of popularity and because they don't give up on it. But I don't know. I don't really know where the point of this is today, if I'm honest, dear listener, but hopefully you've enjoyed my little ramblings through thing. But I would say that if you enjoy something, and I know this as somebody who has enjoyed something that perhaps isn't cool or hip, if you've enjoyed something that maybe not be seen as like popular or mainstream, just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and enjoy it, because what makes you happy is the main thing. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks, because tomorrow they could also be wearing that t-shirt or listening to that piece of music. You just need to hang in there, that's all. Right, this has been the Dyer's Daily Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Jamie Dyer, and it always will be, and I shall see you on the next podcast. But please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, people. Subscribe, and let's get some listener numbers up and going. I shall see you tomorrow for Thursday's podcast. See you later. This has been a South Waves audio production.